welcome to the family here on Purple Mafia. I am your host, Paladino Joey, or Joey Awajan. Purple Mafia is available on all of your favorite podcasting apps. I thank each and every one of you, once and always, for downloading and listening to this show. It's a great pleasure to be back on board with you once again today. The Minnesota Vikings had was it a back and forth battle or was it an uphill battle? Back and forth for a little while, and then it became an uphill battle. Oh yeah, this one felt like the Vikings were going to lose this game the entire time, almost the entire time. Maybe the first quarter, okay, we'll be fine. The second quarter, we'll see. It's just not going so great, but I've seen worse. Third quarter, it's like, yeah, they're going to lose. It's over. Vikings are going to lose this game. You could just feel it the whole time and well into the fourth quarter, as the Vikings never led in this football game until 1 minute, 18 seconds remained. And that is the title of the episode. 1 minute, 18 seconds. Minnesota Vikings defeat Arizona somehow, some way, 23-22 in U.S. Bank Stadium. Well, I'm definitely not complaining about the record, but my goodness, the quality of the games the last several times around seems kind of frightening. Wow. Now, of course, Arizona's a significantly better team than the Colts, the Titans, the Jaguars, even the Bears. Yes, they're better than all of them. In fact, Arizona was leading their division for an extended period. Now they're 6-6. I can imagine they're insanely frustrated with today's loss. Kyler Murray was incredibly solid through most of the game. He did throw one duck at one point. He did throw one duck, which ended up being his first interception, and you could argue that was the turning point of the game in a lot of ways. A lot of us thought, okay, now we have a shot at this. And, of course, the second interception was the final play of the game, the final meaningful play of the game anyway, as, yes, the Vikings were able to kneel down and wrap the thing up. Whew, by God's grace. Another interception by Byron Murphy Jr. He's got 5 now, so that's a incredible statistic. 3 pass deflections by Byron Murphy Jr. in the game. One of those pass deflections is the interception. I guess that's how that stat works. And, of course, Shaq Griffin picked up the duck, they called it like a punt pass. Now, of course, it was pretty deep in Viking territory, so, I mean, that helps us a lot. It's just that we didn't get to have, the interception was fairly deep in Viking territory because it was a deep pass. But, a punt pass, yeah. We always joke about, say, you have, the worst kicker ever. So you figure, okay, we'll try to heave one into the end zone. And if it's intercepted, okay, fine, it's like a punt. It's better than just missing the kick and giving the other team the ball, with good field position. Always kind of joking about, if you have a terrible kicker or something. But, that's pretty much what that was. The Vikings did manage a field goal out of that, so at least it's something. It felt like Fabian Moreau was pretty much snake bit by the referees today. Did he have a great game? Not really, but the first one was absolutely brutal. Phil Mackey of Score North and Purple Daily, well, Score North is Purple Daily, but you know what I mean, Minnesota Sports and Purple Daily, was tweeting out brutal call, and yes, it was brutal call. Moreau pretty much defended the pass, and they called a defensive pass interference. I was saying that was the weakest DPI I've probably ever seen. That's what I was tweeting out or posting. Fabian Moreau, the former Denver Bronco, was in the game against the Vikings when Madison lost that fumble and everything changed dramatically in Denver a year ago. That was a really frustrating game, to say the least. Right now you have an East Coast battle going up. I mean, you could imagine this is a Super Bowl. It'd be a pretty good one. Actually, it was a Super Bowl, 2004, way back. No. What am I talking about? No, it wasn't. The Patriots and Eagles were in the Super Bowl. This was never a Super Bowl. That was the Patriots and Eagles. What am I talking about? It's the Baltimore Ravens and Eagles. It'd be a pretty cool matchup, honestly. The Baltimore Ravens are now 8-4, as they've been on a pretty good run. Philadelphia's 9-2. So, yeah, we'll be talking about the result of this game later. It's 3-0 in the first quarter right now. Baltimore's driving to try to take a 6-0 or 10-0 lead potentially. We'll see how that turns out. The Arizona Cardinals are definitely a better team than any of the other teams we've faced in several weeks, probably since would it be like the Rams or so? I'd say about the Los Angeles Rams. It's been a while. St. Louis Cardinals, St. Louis Rams, Los Angeles Rams. Yeah, well, at least they're the LA Cardinals. the blitz was insane in today's game. Eventually, Sam Darnold and the Vikings finally started getting things going to kind of work against the, to take advantage of the blitz, getting rid of the ball to look for open receivers, be it running backs and or receivers themselves, tight ends, and all that cute stuff. L.J. Collier with 2 sacks. Mac Wilson Jr. with 2 sacks. Senior, with 2 sacks and a pass deflection. There were quite a few of those in this game. And Kazir White also had a sack, a blitz. Nobody was on the guy. He just went bloop, just right in and got to Sam Darnold. That one stuck in my craw at the time. I believe that might have been the first or second sack of the game. It was one of the early ones. It's like, come on, man. Sean Murphy Bunting also went out with injury, and that kind of helped the Vikings' chances, but it wasn't until later in the game. Not rooting for somebody to get hurt. Chad Ryland made 5 of 6. He missed his second kick, and that's where it's like, okay, I guess we're going to be okay after like playing some lousy defense and some way below average offense. In fact, the offense was much worse than the defense could hope to be in this game until very late. Parker Romo also missed a kick, unfortunately. It was a little bit on the longer side, but like the second he kicked it, you knew he was going to miss. So that was kind of annoying, but it kind of is what it is. It's just one of those unfortunate situations there. But he did make a 55-yarder. Parker Romo also had his second clutch extra point to help the Vikings win the football game. Another clutch extra point to help the Vikings win. So Parker Romo, or John Parker Romo, I guess they're calling him Parker Romo, and he's calling himself that as well. So, I don't know, it'd be like if I called myself Georgia Wygen. I'm not going to do that. I'm Joey Georgia Wygen. So, I'm not going to do that. Why go by your middle name? But, or it's like some kind of secondary name, I guess. Like Jean-Luc. It's Luke Picard. Lukey Picardi. But Parker Romo with another clutch extra point, because extra points are funny. And the first kick that he missed as a Viking kicker was an extra point. So I thought it was a pretty good audition by Parker Romo, I guess we can call him now. And, it was a pretty good audition. So somebody's kicker gets hurt or they're terrible or whatever, there's your guy. He's a suitable replacement somewhere. Might get a long-term position at some point, hopefully for him. And I got to think with the guy we drafted in Mr. Reinhardt. I think the Viking, Riker, Will Reichert. I don't know why I'm thinking of Reinhardt. So I'm thinking of Sam Reinhardt, a former, a current hockey player. What's wrong with me? Because of Sam Darnold and Reichert. Okay. Will Reichert, like the captain of the Enterprise, except it's Will Riker. Yeah, that's what helps me remember his name a little better. Almost forgot his name, and he'd been out 4 weeks with some weird injuries and such that he hadn't missed a kick until that game. So, but Will Reichert should be back next week against Kirk Cousins and the Atlanta Falcons. And that'll be in the Dome also. Well, the new Dome. I still call it that, I guess, accidentally. The U.S. Bank Stadium, anyway. That one hasn't changed its name yet. First Bank Stadium. Dang it. I like First Bank more than U.S. Bank, actually, but that's going way back into the 90s, so the turn of the century. The running game was not that great. In fact, Aaron Jones fumbled twice, but he only lost the fumble once. But he did fumble twice, and he was benched for an extended period. You got to see Ty Chandler have a couple seconds there. He did get a first down on a close play. The first play, he got nothing. They gave them the ball again and had a 2-yard long in the game, and that was the first down. Cam Akers had an 18-yard scamper, but other than that, it was kind of like 2 yards in a cloud of dust with the rest of his carries, unfortunately. And similarly with Aaron Jones for the most part, though he did have a receiving and scamper touchdown on a short yardage play, which had me scared to death because we left 1 minute and 13 seconds left on the clock. I guess that's what it was. But it was 1 minute 18 when the Vikings scored, but officially 1 minute 13 on the clock for the Arizona Cardinals with 3 timeouts. So notice, so naturally with the way the Cardinals offense was executing in today's game, I was scared to death. 1 minute 13 with 3 timeouts. I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot to work with. And you're only down by a point. Chad Ryland's a pretty damn good kicker. He did miss one, but one. He made the other 5. I mean, hello. And of course, the single extra point, the 1 touchdown Arizona did score, which was when about 95% of us thought the Vikings were going to lose the game at that stage. Is there doesn't this one have? It doesn't. Oh, yes, it does. When did Arizona go up? So let's look at this. Arizona's, yes, when it was 19-6. Jeez. The win probability was 87.5. In fact, it was even higher at one point. Before 90, up to 90. 90.9 was the highest win probability, but then the Vikings started started moving down that field as quick as possible, and that's when the win probability started dropping, getting into the red zone and all that, and the Vikings quickly score a touchdown, which made us feel a hell of a lot better. Hell of a lot better. But again, the Vikings defense was pretty strong again, where Arizona had spectacular field position, and the defense held up on that initial lost fumble by Aaron Jones after losing and having the fumble recovered. I believe it was it Darnold or Jones? I think it was Darnold recovered the fumble initially, and that's when Jones was sidelined for a significant period of time, deservedly so. But he did get a touchdown late. The second touchdown, the one that ended up tying the football game. Thank you very much. Scary freaking game. Johnny Munt was the receiver of the first touchdown to get the Vikings finally on the board in the touchdown world after making 2 kicks and missing one by John Parker Romo. Jalen Naylor also had another big-time 18-yard catch. Didn't have any major mistakes in this one, so thank you very much. Powell, 1 yard, 1 catch for 8 yards, and we appreciated that. Not a whole lot of exciting numbers today other than Jordan Addison's 26-yarder, which was absolutely massive, and Justin Jefferson's 30-yarder, which was absolutely massive as the Vikings started driving down that dang field and getting in position. The 30-yarder was on the first drive, if I remember correctly, which ended with Johnny Munt and the Vikings finally getting their first touchdown. And the second drive was Jordan Addison with the 26-yard reception and getting the Vikings closer and all that, as that was a very quick drive, very precise, as again the Vikings taking advantage of a dangerous situation there with the blitz, and as well as it was working, was horrifying for everybody. Jordan Addison, that was a 26, I'm going crazy. I also thought we handed the ball off to Addison, but no, it was a short yardage play that ended up becoming a longer play at the end of the day, kind of scampering a bit, and really appreciated that. Couple of short yardage plays to Jordan Addison that definitely ended up being something at the end of the day. Only 1 sack in the game, and it came very late, and it was extremely crucial by Jonathan Grenard pushing the Eagles back. Or I just called them the Eagles. The other birds, the red ones, the Cardinals, not the black and red Falcons, the dirty birds, but just the red birds back, and put the game pretty much, it didn't put the game on ice, but it put the Cardinals in a precarious situation, 3rd and long, and then you had the pretty strange clock management as well, as they were very conservative about using timeouts even on their final drive, when, you want to preserve as much time as possible when you're driving on the field. They just let the clock tick for the most part until late. After that sack, it's like they had no choice but to call timeout, and then things kind of continued after that, snowballed after that. A couple short yardage plays and failing to go out of bounds, which made no sense. But, if you have timeouts, I guess it is what it is. Apologize for the whistling. I think you know what that is. I'm not sure why. Okay, there we go. Sorry. That's how that works. But that's what happens when I don't really have a real studio, do I? It's like living in a studio, practically. Not quite, though. Not quite that bad. Darnold was, mediocre for a while, but then once again, Sam Darnold with another very clutch performance. It was like about mid to late third quarters when the Vikings offense finally started getting their heads out of somewhere, and things started moving much, much more significantly down the field. But that was an extremely exciting feeling as the Vikings offense finally started to wake up, finally got in the end zone in that third quarter, and then ultimately got in the end zone and a field goal in the fourth. The drive that stalled, which wound up in a field goal early on, was extremely frustrating, but thankfully the Vikings defense also forced the Cardinals to stall, because if the Cardinals score a touchdown on their last field goal, they probably win the game. There's almost no chance the Vikings can come back from that. In fact, I don't think the Vikings would have won that game. No, it was just a big for it. It was just extremely fortunate that the Vikings were able to stall the Arizona drive ever so slightly, as they were really threatening in the red zone there. And boy, Vikings come out feeling a little better about themselves after this. But extremely close game against a pretty dangerous team, a team that's a lot better than the record, I'd say. Tough division and some tough opponents and some bad luck and this and that. The Vikings end up 10-2 with a 23-22 win over the 6-6 now Arizona Cardinals. I'm sure they are insanely frustrated and feeling a bit snake bit. Terry McBride was impossible to deal with. He caught everything. And yes, it does help when your quarterback is insanely accurate, which Kyler Murray ultimately was. 12 targets, 12 catches, 96 yards. It was kind of like the other guy who wears a red-colored jersey with some yellow on it. He was kind of like that, Trey McBride. He was tough to deal with. Those big catches that kept the chains moving in Arizona without one of the chain gang members getting injured this time. So hopefully the guy in Chicago is okay. The chain gang member that was in Chicago is okay, or you're hoping the best for him. Not sure if he's from Chicago. I don't think so. I think they all kind of travel with the officiating crew game to game, week to week, and this and that. Kyler Murray attempted 4 passes, completed 31 of them. Pretty good completion percentage, 260 yards, 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. The 2 interceptions, again, pretty late in the game, including one was the final meaningful play of the game. James Conner had quite a few tough plays. The Vikings defense stuffed him on a few plays, and the next thing you know, he's running for 8 yards, 12 yards, and even 16 on one. Kyler Murray also mobile, as he didn't run a whole lot early, but later on had some big runs, including a 19-yarder, 7 rushes, 48 yards total. Not bad except for the interceptions, but again, it kind of is what it is. The first one was just a crappy throw, just kind of gambling, I guess you could say, and it didn't work. And the second one was, again, like we said, final play of the game, and a great play, interception number 5 on the season by Byron Murphy Jr. So we're all very proud of him, as he is really racking up the interceptions this year and making us feel like $1 million. Andrew Van Ginkel had some big moments. Blake Cashman led the Vikings in tackles with 11, including 9 of them being solo. Blake Cashman's value was off the charts, absolutely big. Big play after another, helping the Eagles, or I keep calling them the Eagles, because I'm looking at the stupid Eagles, that's why. The Cardinals, pushing the Cardinals to have to settle for field goals and such, which again proved to be the difference in the game in a lot of ways. Pat Jones was banged up in the game, unfortunately. You have that situation. Theo Jackson had a moment or two. Jalen Redmond was huge down the stretch. 4 total tackles, 2 of them solo. Really appreciate what he brought. And again, Shaq Griffin also with the interception. Harrison Phillips with the deflection at the line, which is really big. I believe that was his 5th of the season. And like we said earlier, my goodness, Fabian Moreau was absolutely snake bit with some tough calls. 0 tackles in the game because every time, I feel like the 2 times they threw his way ended up being like a pass interference call. So that was really frustrating. The first one was absolutely ridiculous. Second one may be questionable at best, but the first one was like, no, that's not a defensive pass interference. So a lot of people extremely irritated about that. Van Ginkel had some big moments, but again, Grenard very quiet until late. But if you can show up and make the big play late, it's a hell of a lot better than nothing. Ward also, my goodness. Ward was called for a offsides. The center was moving like crazy, and that's why I saw him just kind of with that serious look on his face, just shaking his head like, no, you've got to be bleeping me, man. That's basically what Jahad Ward was saying with his facial expression. Just that stare. That kind of like Naz Reid on the Timberwolves when he's got that real serious look. That's kind of what Jahad Ward had on his face. Pretty obvious false start by the Arizona center, and instead was called for. When a player moves, the defensive line is trained to attack, right? They're trained to jump. You've got to go. You've got to go because if you're a half step late, they're going to beat you. This is the National Football League, ladies and gentlemen, and Jahad Ward did nothing wrong on that play, and that was extremely unfortunate. So I'm not ripping on the refs necessarily. There might have been some favorable calls in this game, but there were a couple of them that were a little frustrating in this one for the Vikings. And I don't know, it is what it is. They just hate us because we're flyover country. I'm just kidding. Yeah. Well, Arizona's not exactly the biggest It's not New York and L.A. Not that I'm a big fan of New York or L.A. in any way. In fact, there's so many reasons to not like New York and L.A. for so many reasons, and that included the outright arrogance, to say the least. Hawkinson, 3 catches, 28 yards. Nothing nearly spectacular like last week, but he did have one big, important one on the 12-yard first down that really helped. Munt and Naylor, Munt had the 18-yard, had an 18-yard play on the short yardage touchdown. Naylor, again, a big 18-yarder that really helped in a lot of ways. So some questionable calls, some really frustrating calls, and again, a very precise, well-run offense by Arizona. And Kyler Murray was, conservative in a good way for a very extended period, and it helped. It helped Arizona's cause and was just mind-numbing for all of us watching the game, hoping for a stop, and the stops that just wouldn't come until they got deep, deep, deep into Viking territory to help force a field goal. But still, the Cardinals continued to put points on the board, and the Vikings offense continued to not put points on the board. So you can only imagine the sigh of relief from all of us once the Vikings finally put together a legitimate drive down the field, and it felt good. Dang it, it felt damn good. Kind of like when Darnold early in the year drove down the field against the San Francisco 49ers in a very, very clutch environment, and that's kind of what you felt today, and that was great. Sam Darnold, another extremely clutch fourth quarter performance, and he deserves a ton of credit for that. 21 of 31, 235 yards and 2 touchdowns, quarterback rating all the way up to 111.6, and definitely deserves a ton of respect. So let's look to pass around the awards and demerits for this episode. I mean, it's not that easy. The offense was so frustrating, and the defense had some big-time performers, and we really appreciated that. The Fran Tarkington Award winner for this episode is probably going to go to someone I don't think it's gone to this year, but he should have been in the conversation most of the year, especially when he's healthy. And when he wasn't healthy, it was annoying and extremely frustrating. It's like, for God's sakes, come back and play, because you're killing us by not being out there. Minnesota native Blake Cashman is bringing home the Fran Tarkington Award for this episode. Thought a very strong performance, to say the least. Blake Cashman will be bringing home the Fran Tarkington Award. It's got to go to a Fed defensive player, even though Darnold deserves a ton of credit. He'll get honorable mention along with JJ. J-Jets, not JJ, J-Jets. Especially when JJ's actually healthy and be in the box scores next year, possibly. 7 catches, 99 yards. I don't even think I mentioned that officially. But the James Shepard? That's the Wild. The Christian Potter Memorial has to go. I'm sorry, you scored a touchdown and we appreciate it, but you put us in some ugly positions and you drove us crazy. It's Aaron Jones. It's going to Aaron Jones. I think that's his second one this year. What the heck, man? Hang on to the football. You're making me mad. It's not going to Fabian Moreau, because those were not good calls, especially the first one. That was stupid. So Fabian Moreau, don't worry. You're not getting a Potter Memorial in this episode. You don't deserve it. I think the officials making that call deserve it much more. He's not getting a Tarkenton either, though. It's not like he was spectacular, but it's better than nothing. He did have a pass deflection, and dang it. So it's not like he was bad. I thought the calls on him were really tough, to say the least. The running game is frustrating, but Akers did have an 18-yard long, so we do appreciate that. So, yes, Jones officially getting the Ponder. Blake Cashman's bringing home the Tarkington and Darnold honorable mention for probably the 19th time. Unless he just has a terrible game. He's always hanging around that Tarkington award, and he's brought home, I think, 3 this year. So, good for Sam. I think he shared it a couple weeks, but Cashman's bringing it home this week because the defense deserves a ton of credit for this victory. And Blake Cashman, he's got to at least get 1 or 2 this year. Byron Murphy Jr. I think he brought home 1 earlier in the year, and he's been huge with those game-ending interceptions, and we really appreciate Byron Murphy for doing that. With that said, we will take a break and come back, look around the league. Looks like for at least for now, the NFL roundup's going to stick around, though. It would be nice if I didn't over-babble in certain games. Of course, funny how the entire NFC North roundup took place on Thanksgiving. Isn't that the darndest thing? Isn't that crazy? The Bears and Lions played each other at the very beginning, and then much later, Miami and Green Bay. So And every single game, including the Black Friday one, all 4 of them, every team I wanted to win lost. 0 for 4. Wonderful, isn't it? Just imagine if I was betting on just imagine if I was betting on DraftKings, I would have lost a lot of money. So good thing I didn't on those games. That would have been, whoops, that would have been painful. So, but then again, Detroit, actually, no, Chicago covered the point spread, so never mind. I would have won. Never mind. Chicago covered the point spread if you just picked, depending on how far you pick, like depending on the parlays and all that. But no, anyhow, Vikings will be hosting the Kirk Cousins-led, if you can call it that, Atlanta Falcons next week. So that should be a fun conversation coming up, segment 2. And we are back here on Purple Mafia segment number 2. Time to look around the league a bit. And of course, you got those multiple Thanksgiving games. You got the Black Friday game. And like I said, out of the 4 games, the 4 teams I wanted to win all lost. Sounds about right. So yes, that's your Thursday night games. And well, they're all related to the NFC North, except the Black Friday game, the Yuck City Chefs. Yeah, I don't know. I can't take it anymore. It seems like they win every bleeping game they play, no matter what the situation is. So I guess we'll open up with the Black Friday one to be, whatever the word is, chronologically correct. The Yuck City Chefs cooking up a 11-1 record against the awful Las Vegas Raiders. Yes, the awful Las Vegas Raiders. Another situation where the other team, whoever the Kansas City Chiefs are playing, is winning for an extended period, has a golden opportunity to win, and they simply don't. They just simply do not get the win. They either run out of time, or the Chiefs make a clutch play, or the Kansas City stingy defense is outstanding, like it always is, and that's kind of what happened in this one. Patrick Mahomes, a very mediocre game, honestly. Low, yeah, gosh, what did he complete? 20 of 46, but 306 yards isn't anything to sneeze at. 1 touchdown, no interceptions, quarterback rating of 84.2. Aiden O'Connell, no relation to Kevin, that I believe, had an outstanding game. Maybe his best game of his life. And it still wasn't enough to beat the Yuck City Chefs on the road, which would have been awesome. 23 of 35, 340 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no grape jelly stain, except he did lose a fumble. Of course he did. Of course Aiden O'Connell lost a fumble. And I will not call him by those initials because it's the same exact initials as the certain politician I'm not a fan of. All you got to do is think about the initials and you got it. DeAndre Hopkins of Kansas City with 4 catches and 90 yards out of being targeted 9 times. Of course, some of them are throwaways. The idiot who's dating the other idiot with 7 catches, 68 yards, did not get in the end zone. Justin Watson is the only guy that received a touchdown pass from Patrick Mahomes Elementary, my dear Watson, with a 6-yard touchdown, and that's all. That is it. Pacheco, if I'm saying it correctly, Pacheco, I'm always saying it wrong. He's another clown who has to show off every time he does anything good, but good for him, I guess. I know, it just drives me nuts. 1 catch for 5 yards, but also had only 7 rushes for 44 yards. Kareem Hunt, 7 rushes for 15. Wow, that's funny. But one way or another, the Chiefs get the job done. We don't need to go over every little stat possible. That's probably tiring at the end of the day. Vegas Raiders mounted, a total of 3 sacks? Yeah, because Max Crosby had 1. They just could not get the job done. It's too bad. But yeah, Kevon Chason shared 1 with Adam Butler, including another one. Clavon, and then Zach Carter also picking up a sack. Kansas City, Chris Jones at 2, which was obviously big for the Chiefs, and George Karlaftis, I love it, with 1 sack and a pass deflection. Justin Reed and Drew Tranquil was tranquilizing to the Raiders with 2 pass deflections. Okay, let's move on. The Chiefs won, and they're 11-1. Bottom line, I think I prolonged that way too long. Buffalo, yeah, and I am starting this segment a little later than normal. What the heck? I mean, whatever, as long as we get the show done, right? Buffalo leading 21-3 over the San Francisco 49ers in a very white game. Imagine that, lake effect snow in Buffalo around this time of year. Not surprising. Freezing cold day in Minnesota on December 1st. Not surprising. Last year, it was kind of, I think December started really cold. And then Christmas Day, at least around here, it was 50 degrees and misty. And of course, the apartment had the heat up to the moon, and was nothing we can do about it. That was extremely uncomfortable. 50 and mist, though, that's depressing for Christmas. I'll take 20 with snow on the ground over that any day of the week, and especially if the sun's shining. It doesn't have to be a nasty, frustrating, snowy day. Anyhow, let's keep moving. Yuck City Chefs won. Buffalo's winning the Sunday night game, which is we always enjoy viewing while doing this podcast. It's always a lot of fun. The Monday night game up and coming, I guess it's a classic. Denver versus the Brown Bags. The Donkeys versus the Brown Bags, basically. Denver Broncos versus the Cleveland Brown Bags. And yes, Vince Germano does remind us about being a Cleveland fan. We'll get to that in the third segment coming up. Okay, we do get to one of the Thanksgiving games because this is not NFC North related. The Dallas Cowboys, so apologize for me being chronologically incorrect. I guess who cares, right? It's still the same pre-Sunday stuff. Yep, kind of like back in the 90s, and the Cowboys and the Giants would compete for the division, and Dallas would kind of squeak away with the win. That's kind of what happened here, but then again, the Giants actually made it more interesting in the fourth quarter. I remember, yeah. Cowboys had a commanding lead of 27-10, and then the Giants kind of sort of came roaring back and ended up losing by a single score. There was a tipped pass at the the defensive line by Drew Lock. Got a tipped pass. It was tipped and caught by a number 13 of the Dallas Cowboys, and that ended up being a pick six by DeMarvion Overshown. He was overshown too, and his interception, his pick six, was overshown on ESPN and other outlooks like the NFL Network and such. Drew Lock a pick six, and that was a turning point in the game. The Giants actually led for an extended period with a halfway decent start. Fantasy kicker Brandon Aubrey had a couple of kicks in the game, and thank you, Brandon. But unfortunately, the other team had the game of their life this week, and there's nothing you can do about that. That's the worst part about fantasy. You can't play defense. There's nothing you can do. You can't make the other team stop scoring. You're screwed. If the other team has like a record type of a game, kind of like what happened to me in the Super Bowl more than once in fantasy football on Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas, Joey. After a great season ends like that, yeah, that was fun. But no, this year's team is not a great season. It's a decent season. And I'm talking about something no one else cares about. And I apologize. Drew Lock, again, had that nasty pick six. That's about the biggest grape jelly stain you're ever going to get if you're a starting quarterback in the NFL. And Drew Lock did not throw a touchdown, but he did rush one in. He actually showed some pretty nice mobility off and on throughout the game, including a 28-yarder, and that was the touchdown. He did also lose a fumble, so multiple grape jelly stains for him. Tyrone Tracy Jr., TTJ. Okay, whatever. Tyrone Tracy Jr. got in the end zone also, and all that. So Devin Singletary, not quite the appropriate replacement for Saquon Barkley, is he? And the Giants paying for it in so many ways. Obviously, a certain guy named Daniel Jones, who I didn't even talk about yet. We'll probably get to him more in the third segment because we're talking about current stuff at the moment. But Daniel Jones had that great game against the Vikings in the postseason, got the big extension, and a few years later here now ends up being released by the Dallas Cowboys, put on waivers, went unclaimed, so nobody's forced to take on the contract. The Giants are still on the hook. Minnesota Vikings sign Daniel Jones to the practice squad. And again, we'll get to him in a little bit to talk about his future possibly with the Minnesota Vikings. So Daniel Jones is a Viking if you've been living in a cave. Malik Neighbors with 8 catches, 69 yards, and no touchdowns. Thank God so much. I mean, I thought J.J. McCarthy was going to the Giants. I really did. But no, thank God for that big contract. That's what made the Giants skittish about taking J.J. McCarthy. But they figured, okay, well, one way or another, we need a star receiver one way or another. And Malik Neighbors is it. Yeah, he's a really good receiver. He's got a wonderful future in the league. So, blue chip quarterback de jour, not named Drew Lock. Even though Drew Lock is he's okay, but he's not a starter. He's kind of like what Daniel Jones might be for us. So we'll see. Yes, without a huge extension. Just an extension, maybe, like backup quarterback dollars. Yes, but Malik Neighbors could be that star receiver for young quarterback du jour, and both of them can grow up together, and it'll be nice. Cooper Rush, who once upon a time killed the Vikings on Halloween, had an okay game, 105 yards passing and a touchdown, a tutty. Ricky Dowdle was not dawdling too much with 22 rushes, 112 yards, and got in the end zone, and 22 long. 22 rushes, 22 long, and a 112 number. That is, man, those are some weird numbers to put together, but that's how it went. CeeDee Lamb had what appeared to be a shoulder injury in the game as well, so he was kind of like in and out, and ultimately out. You could see him kind of like, twirling around and moving his neck, so that's not good. And you saw him shaking his head like, nah. Like I don't think I'm going to go back in. I was watching, and of course it was late enough in the game, it didn't matter, kind of, sort of. The Giants did mount their cute little comeback, but it wasn't enough. So let's move on. This is another like preseason kind of game at this point. Even though Dallas has won a couple in a row, they're now 5-7. So just kind of delaying the inevitable, if you know what I mean, when it comes to the end of the season, unless Jerry Jones decides to keep the coaching staff. Why is Jerry Jones still the president? Why is he still the general manager of the Cowboys? Yeah, it worked 30 years ago, buddy. 30 years ago. 30 years ago, it worked. 30. And the next year will be the 30th anniversary of the last Super Bowl championship, buddy. It's a long time. Cincinnati, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh actually lost last week, remember? Now they're a game behind the Vikings. We were on pace with that 7-2, 8-2, and then it was going to be 9-2. Nope, they lost. 8-3, losing to the Cleveland Brown Bags. And now the Cincinnati tiny little Cats versus the, Steel Pit, I guess, the Pittsburgh Steelers, 44-38. What an epic battle in Cincinnati. Both teams played awesome, actually. But Cincinnati drops to 4-8. Worst Super Bowl pick ever. Worst. Didn't I pick them to win last year, too? I'm not picking Cincinnati to win the Super Bowl again until they get their heads out of somewhere. San Francisco, man. I like that hat that Shanahan's wearing. That's a really nice winter hat. I would wear that right now, and I'm not even kidding. It's awesome. I like San Francisco's merchandise, especially that, the classic look that they've gone with for the last several years now. They look just like the Montana era 49ers. But they're getting crushed by the They're getting crushed by the '91 Buffalo Bills, if you know what I mean. That's the one that should have won it all. That was the team, and when they didn't, it was kind of like the ship sailed, but they kept getting back to the Super Bowl. Russell Wilson turning back the clock. 38 attempts, 29 completions, 414 yards, 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. Come on, man. But whatever. Kind of similar on Joe Burrow's side, but not quite 400 yards. He attempted 38 passes, 28 completions, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. But he had about 100 less yards, so I guess that counts for something. Chase Brown, almost 6 yards a carry. Good game on the ground, good game in the air, good game all over the place. Najee Harris, almost 5 yards a carry for the Pittsburgh Steelers and a touchdown on 16 carries, 75 yards. Okay. George Pickens and Pat Freiermuth both getting in the end zone. And both about 70 yards. Good for them. Jamar Chase, the stud receiver of Cincinnati. We'll see what happens there in the offseason. I don't know. It's heartbreaking. That's another one. It's like, has the ship sailed already in Cincinnati? Or is it going to be kind of a rebuild on the fly and get things back together again in the next year or two? Because Joe Burrow's got to win at least one Super Bowl, doesn't he? And then Cincinnati gets to end their drought. And hopefully J.J. McCarthy wins at least one Super Bowl for a certain team that plays about 6 miles east of here. That'd be nice. Certain team wearing purple and stuff. Of course, the whiteout's coming up pretty soon here. I think it's the Bears game. I think it is. Yeah, close to Christmas Eve, man. That's gonna be fun. Even white helmets. It's gonna be interesting. T. Higgins with 69 yards and 5 catches and a touchdown, so on and so forth. A great back and forth game. Back and forth. It's like, Cincinnati made it 7-0. Pittsburgh 7-7. Cincinnati 14-7. Pittsburgh 14-14. Cincinnati 21-14. Pittsburgh 21-21. Back and forth all that time, and that was midway through the second quarter. What an epic game! But then Pittsburgh started making field goals. Cincinnati was keeping them out of the end zone, but Pittsburgh was scoring and Cincinnati wasn't doing jack bleep. Cincinnati finally did get a field goal from Evan McPherson late in the third quarter. Pardon me. It was a very defensive battle in the third quarter, which is funny considering all the points in this game. And then the fourth was a back and forth again. Pittsburgh up 41-24. As again, Pittsburgh capitalizing on those extra field goals that they were able to get. And of course, Russell Wilson's touchdown pass very late in the third was in a lot of ways an indicator of how things were headed here, as there was a bit of back and forth. Cincinnati, Joe Burrow did fumble. There was a scoop six by Peyton Wilson. Very costly to make it 41-24. Cincinnati mounted a somewhat of a comeback, but it was kind of too little too late, and they ran out of time. Pardon me, as Pittsburgh did get a 30-yard field goal along the way at the Cincinnati 12 to put them up by 2 scores. So when Cincinnati did score, it just wasn't, there was still time left, but Pittsburgh was able to burn the clock enough, and Cincinnati couldn't get the job done. Damn, 44-38, Cincinnati. That's what kind of year it's been for the Bengals. No matter how good they play in a game, they still come up short. Just depressing. Like every Super Bowl Cincinnati was in, they've been in 3. And in every single one of them, they lose at the last, play or two. It's just very close games. Like both of the 49ers Super Bowls were super close. And then, of course, the frickin' Rams. That was down to the wire. Buffalo is celebrating all over the place. Another turnover. San Francisco is just, I don't know. They look like fish out of water, man. Kind of like Miami against Green Bay. You know what I mean? Is it the whole warm climate going to that nasty Buffalo snow? I don't know. Yeah, Samuel, I guess he fumbled. I don't know, Samuel. New England versus the Colts. That is a rematch of the 2006 AFC Championship game, and the Colts win again. 25-24 in this case. New England drops to 3-10. The Colts are kind of semi-hanging on with a 6-7 record. Patriots wearing those gorgeous classic 85 and up to the 90s-ish era Patriots uniforms. Those were nice. At the time, we didn't appreciate them. When the Patriots changed to the darker blue in 94, I believe, or was it 93? Man, I like those old uniforms, though, the red. It's very cool. I remember the Patriots shut out the Vikings in Moss's first game back against the Patriots. And Moss made a jerk of himself and was cut the next day. Yeah, that was back in 2010. Wonderful, wonderful day, a wonderful season by the Vikings, and great return by Moss. But, apparently he has some kind of health issue that he had to wear sunglasses indoors now. So, I don't know. Wishing him the best. I mean, I haven't liked the guy's attitude. I didn't like the guy's speech at the Hall of Fame. So, but I got to get over that right now. And, again, wish Randy Moss the best health-wise. I don't think he elaborated on it, and if he did, I apologize. I have not heard personally, and it's not because I don't care. I just have not heard. So I'm just being dead honest with you. Anthony Richardson clutch down the stretch against the Patriots. Patriots took a 7-point lead. With midway through the fourth, Richardson was able to drive eventually the New England Patriots down the field with 17 seconds remaining into the end zone with Alec Pierce, and then they also convert a 2-yard attempt, Dante Culpepper style, because Anthony Richardson's huge and very athletic. I used to say Dante Culpepper was the greatest goal line threat in NFL history. Say if you get to the goal line and you could go for 2, you're going to probably get it. Even though the defense might be anticipating what's going to happen, you do have an offensive line. They do exist. And the fact that Dante Culpepper was so big and powerful, and the fact he's a quarterback where he could fake people out and then attack into the end zone before the ACL, but maybe after as well, but certainly before the ACL. And now Anthony Richardson might have that Dante Culpepper-esque conversion capabilities now in situations like that, as they did basically what Mike Tice did, where it's like, let's just end it right here. Let's find a way. And that's pretty much what Richardson did. He went to the right and kind of burst through into the end zone. Didn't really even have to hit anyone either. Just a little teeny bit of contact and got into the end zone. So risky play, obviously, like you fumble the snap or the defense, like the blocking just isn't right and the defense scores through and then somehow wraps up Richardson before he can get in. It's a risk, and that's what the Vikings did when obviously a very frustrated 2002 Vikings team did, and Culpepper was able to get in the season finale against the New Orleans Saints. So kind of shades of that a little bit here, where it's like the game ends here. We fail or we succeed. It's just plain and simple, and that's what the Colts did. Kind of cool. So even though it wasn't a great overall matchup and all that, but I don't know, two young quarterbacks going at it. Richardson was awful passing the ball, but, well, he was pretty good on the run. Completed 50% of his passes for 109 yards, 2 interceptions, 2 touchdowns. Drake May, way better, 30 attempts, 24 completions, but only 1 touchdown, see? Did get in the end, did throw an interception as well, pardon me. And he also ran for 59 yards, did Drake May. So both quarterbacks showing some athleticism in this one. But the Colts win with the ultra, balls to the wall, 2-point conversion at the end. When it's a potential game-tying touchdown, they say, screw it, we either win or lose right here. No OT. Let's just go. MetLife Stadium, Aaron Rodgers and co. hosting the Seattle Sea Chickens. And the Chickens came home to roost versus the Jets. Which team, what would you be more intimidated by in the air? Seahawks or Jets? You'd think Jets, right? But unfortunately, no. Seahawks get the job done. They fly harder than the Jets. This Jets team, I guess they're built in 1916, just like the plane. And it's a mad, 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 mad world. If I'm saying the mad too many times, I apologize. But there was a plane from 1916 that people tried to use. 2 of the characters tried to use to try to get ahead of everybody else to eventually find the $250,000, which is a lot more in 1963. But the plane was from 1916, and they were going slower than the cars. Yeah. Well, that's kind of what this Jets team reminds me of. They are now 3-9. Aaron Rodgers trying to find that big W, but unfortunately, I don't know. I don't know. He's one of the people that got lost way behind. Geno Smith gets the job done. It's a big W. Yep, that's in that same movie. 2 touchdowns. Yep, the 350 G's was buried under the big W, I tell ya. It's a big W, I tell ya. Okay, sorry. 1960s. Geno with the touchdown and an interception, or no interceptions, pardon me. I don't know. This game, Seattle is back into playoff contention. In fact, they are division leaders because the, what do they call them? The Cardinals lost. The Rams lost recently. I don't think they played. Did they play today? Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. We'll get back to that. But the Seattle Seahawks are 7-5 and in first place. I know the Rams lost last week. They actually got their butts handed to them on Monday Night Football by Saquon Barkley. Yeah, Saquon Barkley versus the Rams. That's pretty much what that was. But yes, the main theme here is that the Seahawks are in playoff contention and the Jets are dead. They're landed. Washington Commanders getting back into playoff contention after losing, 3 games in a row. Ouch. 8-5 now. They crushed the Tennessee Titans. 42-19. The Washington Commanders. There are rumors that the Washington Commanders will be, once again, the Washington Redskins to honor the chief of the tribe there when it comes to the whole Redskins bit. Brian Robinson Jr. finally comes back. He'd been out for forever. He'd been out half the damn season. He's a good player, dang it. It's a good running back. He was actually on my team. I ended up trading him for a certain receiver, Terry McLaurin. Same team. 2 touchdowns today. Thanks, Terry. So it ended up being a decent trade for both teams. Yeah. Brian Robinson, not Robbins, Robinson, like the former Viking. 16 rushes, 103 yards, 4 got in the end zone. Chris Rodriguez, 13 rushes, 94 yards. Nice little dual threat by the Commanders. And this guy named Jaden Daniels, 9 rushes, 34 yards, and also got in the end zone. And he threw for 3 touchdowns. That is amazing numbers there, man. Threw for 3, Jaden Daniels. Great game, except for the stupid interception, but whatever. 25-30, great accuracy. I mean, he's making Anthony Richardson look like it's not even a conversation anymore. You can't even put those two in the same paragraph, much less you can't put them on the same planet. And Jaden Daniels had some meh games, but man, this isn't one of them. Threw for 3, and then the rest of the team also, including him, ran 1 in. So that's 4 for Jaden right there. And then that's just a very impressive display by the Washington Commanders offense. against a Tennessee defense that not that long ago was thought of as really good. In fact, the Vikings struggled against this defense. But Washington sure tore it to pieces today. That's for damn sure. Unbelievable, man. Washington just ripped them up. And good for the Washington Commanders. I like the Commanders, dang it. I actually like them, you know. For years, I didn't like the Redskins or the Commanders or the whatever. But I don't know. I've kind of, yeah. I'm impressed. It's a nice team. Those uniforms are kind of cool, too. I mean, it makes you kind of, it does kind of have an Army vibe, like the Commanders. There's an Army or Navy, let's say military vibe. Yeah, when you think of Commanders, you think of the Navy, not the Army. But maybe I'm an idiot. You don't really hear about Commanders in the Army, though. Maybe like in ancient times. Biblical times, whatever. He's the commander in the Army. Anyhow, regardless, Will Levis did throw for 2 touchdowns, but he completed about half of his passes. But 2 touchdown passes, and he did not lose a fumble. Congratulations, Will. Yeah, but the Titans got smushed by the Commanders. Congratulations, Washington. Right back into playoff contention, at least wild card time. Very possible with 8-5. It's, yeah, very believable. Jacksonville Jaguars. Houston Texans squeak out one, and they get to 8-5 just like the Commanders. Not quite the blowout you're expecting. But this was in Jacksonville, and Jacksonville keeps teams close. Their defense is decent sometimes. And, yeah, there's another Cam Little. Yep, he's their kicker. C.J. Stroud, kind of mediocre, 22 of 34, 242 yards and a touchdown pass. Joe Mixon was fantastic, again, turning the clock beyond what he ever did in Cincinnati. He's been fantastic for Houston. 20 rushes, 101 yards, 5 yards a carry and a touchdown. And then you saw Trevor Lawrence. Well, you know, he had, I believe, what was it, an ankle injury or something, and that's why he couldn't play against the Vikings? I think that's what it was. Well, you got to see Mac Jones again. He actually had a pretty good game today. Because Trevor Lawrence, it was like a terrible car accident almost. And I'm not trying to make it into something humorous, because it's not. It was literally like that. Like, we're talking over, it was a head-on-head collision, legitimately, as Trevor Lawrence was sliding. He was hit very, very hard in the head by the Texans defender. One of the dumbest, stupidest things you've ever seen. Like, why would you even do that? I remember when that happened to Teddy Bridgewater, but it wasn't as severe. Like, Teddy Bridgewater had what looked like a concussion, the way he was kind of laying there, and it was scary looking, like motionless, that kind of thing. But this looked worse. Whoo-wee. I mean, that was bad. So that's why I got to see Mac Jones, who threw 2 touchdowns and kept the Jacksonville Jaguars in the game. I'm sure they were ultra motivated after that bull crap. But, yeah, Trevor Lawrence wasn't having a particularly good game before that either. But, man, I'm guessing you're going to shelve Trevor the rest of the season. They're 2-10 anyway. Just put him, yeah. Put his season to pasture. Hopefully he can turn it around. Maybe he winds up on another team a lot like Daniel Jones. Maybe he does. He's been mediocre for Jacksonville. Definitely not as advertised with the number 1 overall pick. But we'll see if what the Jaguars do in the offseason. We'll see. But they'll be picking very, very high. Maybe Cam Robinson replacement at left tackle, something like that, like a legitimate left tackle. But, wow, that was a frightening thing, what took place with that terrible, that terrible collision was unbelievable when you think about it. So, yeah, crazy stuff. My apologies. Yeah, I wanted to make sure I get the name of the player. Yep, I remember seeing this. Yep, Azeez Al-Shaair was the one that hit. He was a Houston linebacker that hit Trevor Lawrence. Apparently, though, he walked out of Everbank Stadium with his wife by his side and a smile on his face. So that's kind of cool. That's good to know. So cool. I can't imagine he's going to play next week. And you know, it's kind of almost like screw it. You know, they're maybe they'll put him out there again in a little bit. I don't know. Just for the sake of putting him out there. I don't know. Maybe you don't want to. If you really see a future with him in your organization, you probably don't even want him out there much more. I mean, some other stupid injury, and he's had a lot of injuries, unfortunately, has Trevor. Bottom line, Houston did win the football game 23-20. I'm probably prolonging things, but that was a pretty historical event. in a lot of ways, considering what kind of a nasty hit that really was. Yeah, I got 3 games left here. Besides, no, it's even more than that. LA Rams, so I better move. LA Rams 21-14 over the New Orleans Saints, who are off losing. The Rams get up to 6-6. So yeah, that's why Seattle's slow possession of first. San Francisco's 5-6, and I don't think they're going to be 6-6 after today. They're looking like 5-7, almost certainly, unless it's some kind of crazy comeback. But Buffalo was the one making the comebacks in the past. Tyron Williams got in the end zone. Stafford 14-24, 2 touchdowns, not bad. Williams, wow, not bad at all. 15 rushes, 104 yards, and a tutty, as they call it. Puka Nakua rolls right off your tongue. 5 catches, 56 yards, 1 tutty. Yeah, okay, 1 touchdown. I'm not a millennial or a Gen Z. Gen Z is probably what that is. Demarcus Robinson. I know that name. Yeah, of course. 2 catches, 49 yards, and a touchdown for him. Cooper Kupp what's going on with Cooper Kupp? It seems like these are the kind of numbers you see from him lately. Kind of like T.J. Hawkinson. 3 catches, 17 yards. T.J. Hawkinson. Alvin Kamara, who's ageless. He can be a jackass, but man, he's ageless, so some respect is given there. 23 rushes, 112 yards, almost 5 yards a carry. Wow, it's been great. Derek Carr threw a touchdown and 184 yards as well on 37 attempts. Mediocre. Saints dropped to 4-8. Rams back alive again, at least for the time being. Let's keep going. Why do I? Okay, well, it's because they're in the same division. I'm like, yeah, of course, that's why. Tampa Bay still kind of hanging on to some kind of wild card deal. Carolina with another heartbreaking loss, as they lost to the Chiefs by like a millimeter last week. I wish they beat them, damn it. Do you realize the Chiefs almost lost to Carolina and the Vegas Vegas Raiders? That'd be interesting if they lost to the Golden Knights. But that's actually a pretty good team, and Utah killed them last night from what I saw. Pretty wild. Utah? Yes, there is a Utah hockey team. They are called the Utah Hockey Club for now until they get a real name. Weird. Kind of like the PWHL. A whole season, not a single team had a name. Adam Thielen turning back the clock with 8 catches and 99 yards and a touchdown. Awesome. The single touchdown pass by Bryce Young, but no turnovers once again by Bryce Young. So again, almost 300 yards completed as well. Good for him. Maker Bayfield, yeah, that's what we'll call him now because he threw 2 interceptions and a touchdown. Somebody named Bucky Irving. What a great day for him. 25 rushes, Tecmo Bowl football right here. 25 rushes, Tecmo Bowl, man. 152 yards and a touchdown. Awesome game by old Bucky. And then this guy named Rashad White as well. 11 rushes, 76 yards. Wow. They just ran all over the Sons of Guns because Maker Bayfield was throwing interceptions and sucking most of the game. Mike Evans also had a touchdown, the single touchdown thrown by Baker. 8 catches, 118 yards. Great game by by Mike Evans, a Hall of Fame style receiver there. We shall continue quickly. The Bucks are 6-6, Carolina 3-9. Philadelphia beat Baltimore today. Wow, they just keep winning and winning and winning and winning. And I kept thinking, oh man, don't we want Baltimore to win and Philadelphia to lose? It doesn't matter. If we can't get past Detroit, it doesn't matter. Philadelphia could be 16-0. Philadelphia could be, 3-5, 3 and whatever. What would they be? 3-14. It doesn't matter. If we can't get past Detroit, we're not going to have home field anyway. So we're going to be on the frickin' road. So all that matters to the Vikings in this postseason chase at this stage is Detroit, period. Well, not necessarily, but but Philadelphia is winning their division. So if we're going to worry about Philadelphia, we got to get past Detroit first. Jalen Hurts only attempted 19 passes as Philadelphia is a running team, if you didn't notice, for the most part. No interceptions or fumbles by Jalen Hurts. Good job. Because believe me, that's a big deal for some of these guys. They always find a way to turn the ball over. Barkley, not quite like last week, but still another great game, or a good game anyway, for the future MVP of the league. 23 rushes, 107 yards, and a touchdown. Jalen Hurts ran the ball 9 times for 29 yards and a touchdown. Lamar Jackson, strong performance, but not like one of those epic ones he had earlier in the year, but did not turn the ball over. Good job. Really well-played football game by both teams, and I kept thinking this would be a really nice Super Bowl. Honestly, Philadelphia and Baltimore would be a good one. I'm sure most of us would prefer a Vikings and maybe Bills or something, or The ultimate story would be the Vikings beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl to overcome the Super Bowl IV, which kind of started the whole curse and heartbreak way back in the day. The Vikings lost to the Chiefs when they were 18-point underdogs. Chiefs were 18-point underdogs in that Super Bowl. Yeah, but anyhow, this would be a good Super Bowl if it came to it. 29-19 in favor of Philly. They are now 10-2 on the season. Baltimore drops to 8-5, and now we get to Thanksgiving. We did talk about the Cowboys and the Black Friday Chiefs game. Now you got the Bears in Detroit, and okay, good. I did not talk about next week's opponent. Whew, thank God. Yep, I jumped over that real early. I was like, crap. Nope. The Packer game was pathetic. We'll get to that first. Yeah, well, it's kind of like, just look at if you're watching the San Francisco, well, by the time you're listening to this, it's probably over or almost over, whatever. But just think about the San Francisco and Buffalo game, and it's pretty much the same. Miami was kind of competitive for a couple minutes, but every time they did something, Green Bay did more. Like, anything you can do, I can do better. Even though Tua actually had a really good game. Like, this was easily his best game, I think, in the cold. Like, say, that sub-40-degree weather, which just absolutely was. It was a snow flurries turning into more than snow flurries, kind of blustery cold day in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Miami, yep. I mean, I don't know. It's just not a good match, but Tua had a great game. Let's give him some credit. 37 of 46, 365 yards and 2 touchdowns. He kind of kept Miami in the game, but then it was just one mistake after another by other players, and just Green Bay just kind of walloping them. Jordan Love was exquisite. No turnovers. I believe it's back-to-back weeks with no interceptions. He was once tied with Sam Darnold for leading the league in interceptions, and Darnold was there, and he hasn't been throwing interceptions either. So good for him. Jordan Love 2 touchdowns, just like Darnold today. No interceptions. But the quarterback rating of 129.2. Oof. And Josh Jacobs, they utilized the run, even though it wasn't all that great, because you kind of had to with that wind and cold and all that. Did get in the end zone once, and it was at a point in the game when things were starting to unravel for the Miami Dolphins. Turnovers and such. I believe they fumbled. What do they call that? It was Malik Washington. I believe he fumbled a punt return. It was just depressing beyond belief. Yeah, it's Malik Washington. He fumbled a kick return, not a fumble, or a punt, excuse me, and that was depressing like you wouldn't believe. No, it was a punt return. Yeah, fumbled it, got the Packers to stop the Packers, got them to punt. He had a chance to get in the game. He fumbles, and the Packers score on the next play, I believe, if that's what happened. It was either the next play or the single play after that. And the game kind of unraveled afterwards. So, lame. 30-17, Packers 9-3, Dolphins 5-7. But Tua has been unbelievable since his return from earlier in the year. I believe another concussion. Detroit and Chicago, you could easily say this was the game of the week. Well, maybe not. I think it was Cincinnati and Pittsburgh. 23-20, but it was a good game. Detroit built a pretty sizable lead. Chicago kind of hung in there and tried to pull off another miracle comeback like they did against the Vikings. But 3 weeks in a row, a devastating, ultra-close, heartbreaking loss by the Chicago Bears, losing to the Packers, the Vikings, and Detroit Lions. I mean, that is a recipe for utter failure, losing 3 consecutive division games all in a row, week by week by week, in sequencing weeks. Isn't that crazy? They had golden opportunities. They were down 23-7. It's like Detroit won this game. Hell with it. Goff to Sam Laporta. Blah blah blah. It's over. Just forget about it. And then Chicago just kind of hung in there. Good defense and started scoring. It's like, oh my God, they might actually do this. And then the stupidest, most idiotic clock management in the history of the world. Just like, what are we doing here? I mean, they just let the clock run down until there's nothing left you can do. I mean, you can't kick a field goal. You can't make another play. You're just not using your brain. The Bears run out of time. It was one of the most embarrassing things ever. It was kind of like Nathaniel Hackett all over again, but in Chicago. So whatever his name is over there in Chicago, he's still there. We haven't heard he got fired yet, but at the end of the year, I think they're probably just waiting for the end of the year. But it's kind of sad. 4-8. Bears could be like, the record could pretty much be the opposite, couldn't it? Detroit goes to 11-1, just like the Chiefs. Another close win for both of those clubs. They're both 11-1, and it feels like a collision course to the Super Bowl for Detroit and Kansas City. At least most NFL fans think that. Would love to believe the Vikings could get there. Wouldn't mind seeing the Buffalo Bills get there. They might be, they will be 10-2 after tonight. San Francisco is presenting no resistance at all. And I'm just not impressed. Oh, they're at the 50-yard line, though. He almost got sacked. Nope, Purdy trying to be mobile, rolling out, and the receiver fell. The receiver fell. Man, I just don't know, man. It's depressing. Pearsall, I never even heard of him. For those of you that have, good for you. Pearsall. Okay, well, that's the 49ers. I mean, it's been a lousy season. Guys getting hurt, and I don't know. I think Shanahan's a really good coach and deserves more credit than he gets. I've drugged this out way the F too far, and I apologize. I really apologize. This has been longer than it needs to be. I think that last segment was longer, but this one's even longer than ever. I'm just way too long-winded. Falcons losing to the Chargers, 17-13. Our guy, Kirk Cousins, with a terrible football game. 24 attempts, 39 completions, 245 yards, 4 interceptions in the game. Justin Herbert, just ultra-conservative style out there, kind of running the ball and timing things, but also hitting Ladd McConkey with some great plays. Chargers complete 9 catches on 117 yards for McConkey. But Chargers kind of, it's hard to explain. It's just it's a nicely run offense, but nothing too spectacular in this one. You think of Raheem Morris being a defensive coach that he is, secondary type coach. Falcons wearing the black uniforms today, which I guess is very common for Atlanta. What am I talking about? They'll wear it red sometimes, I guess, depending on the situation. But the Falcons dropped to 6-6. They're still in first place in the NFC South, so they definitely have something to play for. Kirk Cousins was not benched in the game. They just kind of, because it was a close game, but 4 interceptions for him. And Kirk Cousins will be going up against the Vikings next week for the first time in U.S. Bank Stadium ever. So Ray McLeod, 4 receptions, 95 yards for him on Atlanta. Drake London also 9 catches, 86 yards. Those are guys we got to worry about. Rashawn Robinson, who can catch and run and all of that. 26 carries, 102 yards, and a touchdown. So we're going to look at the Falcons briefly here. I babbled way too much in the previous games. Apologize again. I truly do. So let's look at Atlanta some more. I apologize. I don't know what the heck I'm even doing here now at this point. Falcons and Vikings. Yes, that's what we got to look at. We'll look at the history as well, but again, I try to not babble too much about that. The Vikings and the Falcons coming up. It's another nooner on December the 8th, Sunday, December the 8th, U.S. Bank Stadium. We'll bring it right back here again. Kirk Cousins before today's game, 2,807 yards. Darnold almost right there, 27-17. Aaron Jones, who had a lousy game today, but did get to over 800, and Bijan Robinson also over 800. He's closer to 900 now. Good game for him. Darnell Mooney's the leading receiver, 711 yards, 939 overall. Riley Patterson, the former Viking, inactive. I guess he's the kicker in today's game anyway. Interesting. So we'll move off of some of that. Those are usually bench players. Points scored, the Vikings are 9th. Falcons are 16th. Total yards per game, the Vikings are 10th. The Falcons are 8th. Passing yards per game, Vikings 11th. Kirk Cousins' Falcons are 5th. Interesting. Well, he puts up the stats, doesn't he? Darnold doesn't always get a ton of yards, but he'll get some. Rushing yards, pardon me, they're within 0.8. Vikings are 15th, the Falcons are 14th. Time of possession, the Vikings are 9th, though today, not so much. 28th for the Falcons. That's really interesting. Points against, the Falcons are 25th, but today they kept them down to 17 and still lost. What the hell? They were averaging 25 points against a game. Vikings are at 18, and are 5th in the league. Total yards against per game, Falcons are 25th. So this could be an interesting high-scoring game coming up. We'll see. It absolutely could be. Total yards against per game, Vikings 10th. Passing yards against Falcons 26th, Vikings 28th. Rushing yards against Vikings 1st. But I don't know, today it felt like worse than that. But ultimately, the rush yards weren't all that great by the Cardinals. Falcons are 19th. Sacks, so again, knock on wood here. Vikings, 4th in the league with 37. Falcons, worst team in the league with only 10 sacks. Again, knock on wood. We all know how that can go against us. So remember, Jacksonville had only 2 interceptions all year, and then they had 3 in that game against the Vikings. Let's not forget that. Interceptions, Vikings first in the league, and Byron Murphy Jr. getting, then the Vikings getting 2 more, so they're at 18 now. Falcons 16th with 7, so, well, they're kind of right in the middle. Vikings have won 5 in a row going back to the Colts after losing to the Rams, I believe. The Falcons have lost 3 in a row, losing to the Saints. What the hell? Going into bye week, getting walloped by Denver last week. What the flip? And then Cousins being a turnover machine versus the Los Angeles Chargers. Interesting. Okay, very brief look at history. The Vikings lead the all-time series 21-12. Doesn't that just break your heart when you consider and remember 1998? It has been pretty positive. The series goes all the way back to 1966. December 4th, 1966, the Vikings lost 20-13 way back in the day. Falcons coming into the league and beating the Vikings at Met Stadium in 1966. Falcons beat the Vikings again in Atlanta by a point the next year. Then it's kind of a bit of back and forth, but generally speaking, the Vikings would win 2 or 3 and the Falcons would win 1. A couple of 4-game win streaks mixed in. A couple of overtime losses as well. Let's not get into that. The Vikings did have a wild card game, though, way back in 83, and the Vikings won that. Yay for us. It was a wild card game. Vikings win 30-24. Tommy Kramer and the guys beating the Falcons on January 9th, 1983. 41 years ago. Wow. Let's look at this just for a second. Sammy White was still playing. Isn't that cool? Steve Bartkowski versus Tommy Kramer. TK, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and Bartkowski threw a couple of interceptions and no touchdowns. Interesting. Ted Brown getting into the end zone, the goal line smash guy. You gotta like Ted Brown. Yeah, he was good. I like Ted Brown a lot. Well, I don't know him that well. Joe Sensor, that's the other guy I was talking about. That good golly, this is disgusting. Yeah, that really good tight end the Vikings used to have. Yeah. Sammy White, 2 catches for 61 yards and a TD. Cool. All right, let's get off of that because I don't want to remember the other playoff game. I just don't. I refuse to watch any footage of that crap. Bull crap, man. Just made me sick. January 17th, 1999. Vikings were 15-1. Had just recently beat the Arizona Cardinals. Yeah, interesting. Had just recently beat the Arizona Cardinals, and this Chris Chandler guy, who was this backup quarterback who replaced Warren Moon at the Houston Oilers, visiting the Metrodome when I was there in attendance when the Houston Oilers before they moved to Tennessee not too long after that. Chris Chandler was the quarterback. He was pretty average, pretty mediocre. Somehow winds up with the Falcons as the starter a few years later. They go 14-2. They're a team that just a millimeter behind the Vikings all year. It's like, frack, we're going to have to play those guys, aren't they? And they're going to be really tough. But we can do it. Vikings took what looked to be a sizable lead. Randall Cunningham fumbles very late before the half. Falcons score a touchdown, lickety-split, and it was a completely different football game after that. Cunningham was skittish, wasn't completing nearly the passes he was before, and all that 1998 magic just seemed to be gone. It ran out of magic points, and there were no ethers to fill them up. But there was a lot more to that. I mean, there were, again, like this whole 3 Deadly Sins episode. And remember how everybody blamed Blair Walsh, the 2015 season, and early 2016 loss to the Seattle Seahawks. Remember that? It's just a wild card game, but it's still heartbreaking. This one had 3 deadly sins too. The Cunningham, you can't just all point at Gary Anderson in this one. No way. Obviously not. Cunningham fumbled before the half. Robert Smith stepped out of bounds, leaving precious time left on the clock for the Falcons to possibly tie the game up. The Vikings were moving into range, and then Gary Anderson missed the kick. So yes, that did count. Gary Anderson's missed kick is definitely part of it, and it sucks, and it's bullcrap. But you got to look at Robert Smith and Randall Cunningham too. Also the fact the Vikings defense didn't get the job done. The pass rush just wasn't there on Chris Chandler when we needed it most. And the heartbreak was on, folks. That's all I got to say about that. Otherwise, everything just went crazy here. There's like ads covering up everything. Thanks, football database. Vikings had won 4 in a row and then lost to the Falcons pretty badly. Yeah, 2020. I remember that. I think Ryan was still there. Whooped the Vikings' butts. I remember that. 2020. That's when we knew we were in trouble. He just made a mockery of us. And Kirk Cousins sucked so bad in that game. It's kind of funny and ironic how all that took place. And then the Vikings win 31-28 in Atlanta last year. Yep, I don't think. Oh, yeah, that's right. That was Josh Dobbs. So the last time Cousins ever played against the Falcons, see, we beat them 28-12 in 2019. Nice win. 28-12, nice little win there. Kirk Cousins was the quarterback. It's the only time we played against them as a Viking, actually. Or no, second. That was the only time we beat them as a Viking. The second time was also in the U.S. Bank Stadium, and they kicked our ass. It was embarrassing, 40-23. Close win. Josh Dobbs showing that great athleticism on the road. It was a lot of fun. Cam Akers tore his Achilles tendon. It was very depressing. And me and my brother went out and did some cleanups after that. It was a quick little job, but it was fun. It was kind of fun, but depressing, listening to talking about Cam Akers' Achilles tendon. That was sad. So yeah, that's the last time we played them, just last year with Josh Dobbs coming in after the Kirk Cousins Achilles tendon. Funny, and then the backup, the guy that replaced Cousins, having a concussion right away, and Dobbs went right in there and had a fun day, showing some athleticism. To the point, though, I do think the Vikings will beat the Falcons. I think we're going to fluster Kirk Cousins enough that he'll have some mistakes. I wouldn't be surprised if he had a pretty epic game, and this one's going to be very close and high scoring. Wouldn't be surprised if Kirk Cousins threw for over 300 yards in the game, and he probably will. But at the same time, I think Brian Flores' defense is going to get to Cousins enough that the Vikings get the job done. Multiple interceptions. We'll say 2 interceptions by Cousins in the game, and that'll help be the difference for the Vikings to win over the Atlanta Falcons. Final score, 31-28. The Vikings will beat the Falcons. Darnold throwing for a couple touchdowns again. Cousins throwing for over 300, but 2 interceptions. Generally speaking, that'll be the difference. And the Vikings win 31-28 over the Falcons on Sunday coming up. Not sure what's going to happen to the running game. I don't trust Aaron Jones like I did before. The guy simply cannot hang on to the bleeping ball, and that's where frustration truly mounts at the end of the day with this team. So with that, we're going to take a quick break and come back for fan interaction. And we are back here on Purple Mafia, segment number 3, fan interaction segment. No calls that I can see, but yeah, really appreciated Gerald's call in last week. Would be nice to hear from you again. And Mad Martin, you're more than welcome. Obviously, anybody, Dave Hickey, and yes, Gerald, I'd love to hear from you all the time, and calling into Freedom of Thought too. Hopefully, we have a lot of fun with that show. But we'll move on from that right now. We're gonna stick to the Vikings. I've done enough babbling. So, yes, the signing of Daniel Jones, and we're going to hear comments from people here in a second. I'll just get to this now. It looks like he's got number 13 on his back now, with Jones wearing purple, or red, you could say, in the practice. Daniel Jones drafted number 6 overall. A lot of people saw that as a surprise at the time. Quarterback from Duke. You don't really think of Duke too much and football players, but, well, 6th overall pick. They saw something there. 6th overall pick by the New York Giants, born on May 27, 1997. 6'5", 230, like a big quarterback coming out of Duke. Man, it's hard to believe it's been that long already. It seems like yesterday that Daniel Jones was drafted to the NFL. Obviously started right away and so on and so forth. He was really good as a rookie, let's be honest. 24 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. I mean, I'll take that out of a rookie quarterback. Come on. I think a lot of people are like, that's pretty good. 3,000 yards. It's getting hard to believe. 2019. And then in 2022, see, after that, he had some mediocre years, like 10 interceptions, 11 touchdowns the next year, 10 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, missed some games along the way. And then 16, he was just kind of like a Nick Foles in a way. 15 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions, like extremely conservative, 3,200 yards. Played in 16 out of 17 games. I believe they may have sat him in the season finale. 3,205 yards. I think I already said that, sorry. But only 5 interceptions. It's just kind of wild and crazy when you think about that. And then had a couple of outstanding games against the Vikings. A close loss in the Christmas Eve whiteout versus the Vikings. Beautiful, beautiful snow, light snow on the ground, beautiful uniforms. Made me think of frosting on a nice fresh cinnamon roll. Oh, that's what it felt like to me. Just smooth as silk. It looked beautiful in that building, the whiteout and the white logo. It was really cool. And I guess we're doing that with the Bears up and coming in a few weeks on a Monday night game. It's going to be fun. But Daniel Jones had a great game, and then he had a really good playoff game against the Vikings. And Kirk Cousins did his check down BS at the end. Just kind of, shriveled up. And Kirk Cousins remains a guy that only won one playoff game, and I don't think he's going to win one this year either, especially if it's against us. At least I would hope not. Daniel Jones, though, coming to the Vikings, and a lot of people will tell you that Ed Donatell's awful defense helped Daniel Jones get that big contract, and maybe, just maybe, what's the other word? What's the word I'm looking for? Indirectly helped J.J. McCarthy come to Minnesota, because the New York Giants like J.J. McCarthy. But they, with that contract with Daniel Jones, and they figured, okay, let's give Daniel another chance, Dan another chance, whatever, DJ, Danny Dimes another chance with this great receiver, Malik Neighbors, instead of taking J.J. McCarthy. Well, at least they have their good receiver, but then ultimately here we are, Daniel Jones getting let go by the New York Giants. And now he'll be signing with the Vikings practice squad, and a pretty good chance he's at minimum going to be a placeholder going into next year. There's a pretty good chance. Now, he's not signed for next year yet, but he chose the Vikings out of several other teams to either be a immediate starter with like the Raiders or something, or a nice backup with the Baltimore or somebody else like that, because he's seeing how what a great job Kevin O'Connell does with young quarterbacks. So he wants to come here and try to get his career revived one way or another, being back up to J.J. McCarthy, or maybe starting out the season next year, which would be probably a lot shorter term. J.J. McCarthy would probably come in eventually, if he's not the starter week 1, maybe by week 2 or 3. And then Daniel Jones could be a nice backup for the Minnesota Vikings. And then who knows, maybe he becomes a starter somewhere if J.J. McCarthy goes on to be the star a lot of us would like him to be. So happy to have Daniel Jones here. New York Giants having to pick up the tab right now because, Daniel Jones was not claimed, but did wind up on the practice squad instead. So with the Vikings, other teams can try to scoop him up, but Daniel Jones would have to agree. If he says, no, I'm not interested in going to the Las Vegas Raiders, I'd rather stay here with Kevin O'Connell and try to help my career instead of trying to hammer a square peg through a round hole. So, yeah. That's kind of what could be happening, if he goes to the Raiders. So happy to have Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes with the Minnesota Vikings to hopefully revive his career. Pretty good chance Sam Darnold gets a pretty big contract offer somewhere. We're not sure where exactly yet. Maybe it's the Giants. Wouldn't that be funny? It might be the Giants. You just never know, depending on what happens in the draft. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But Daniel Jones, there is a reason he came, and that's Kevin O'Connell. Connections earlier as well. So happy to have him. Not to be our starting quarterback of the future or anything, because, but he could be a short-term starter, and he could be a really nice backup quarterback. At very least, he could be a nice backup. So happy to have him there. So let's get on to fan interaction now and hear what you had to say about Daniel Jones and others. I know Tanae Brown's got things to say. This is going to be another long episode, looks like. I'm sorry. Oh, God, yes. Well, I'll keep moving. We'll see how much fan interaction there is. I know there's actually some Instagram that I didn't get last week. So it's going to be a long episode. Retweeted by Tanae Brown out of New Zealand. Thank you, Tanae. Really appreciate that. Tanae says, I like that it's a practice squad deal for now. He's an interesting backup for next season, too, if he decides to stay. I assume Darnold will be offered a massive offer due to his this year's campaign. Yes. Yep. You know how Matt Castle got the huge contract and signed to the Chiefs years ago when he had that nice year with the Patriots and then was never the same, but still a nice quarterback, but not as good. Okay, Dave Hickey, I think he might be talking about Saquon Barkley. Yep. Saquon Barkley over 300 total yards. Yeah, that was crazy. 2 touchdowns, 47 receiving. And yep, Dave Hickey says he's my fantasy running back, and I'm very proud to say me too, Dave. Dave Hickey coming in out of Iowa. Continuing here with conversation with Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes. Dave Hickey says that might not be a bad idea, especially for nothing, a former first rounder, and he dominated the Vikings in the playoffs. And Sam Darnold is going to want a whole lot of money unless he takes a hometown discount to stay on a winning team, which is possible. But odds are Darnold will probably get an offer and head elsewhere. There's a pretty good chance. Sips and Stogies. I do believe this is the very first. Interaction he's ever had with the show. And nice to meet you, Sips and Stogies. I think he's local. I don't know if it says on his profile. I forgot. Oh yeah, South St. Paul. Nice to meet you. And transplanted in North Carolina. From South St. Paul and transplanted in North Carolina. Minnesota Vikings and Wild fan. Cool. Check out Brave the Wild if you like too. If you like the Minnesota Wild. That's another Wild podcast. So check that out. I was saying the Vikings' right side has not been picking up the blitz for Jack Squat. Yeah, that was a huge problem in today's game. I didn't even talk about it as much as in the first segment, but I figured I'd see it here. Thank God for John Parker. Romo 55-yarders to tie up the sloppy game. Sips and Stogie says, I don't want to sound like an armchair coach, but I'd like to think I could adjust for that with the players I have available. Yeah, and luckily they did. That's the good thing. And I was saying, absolutely, there's no reason they can't. And that's the good thing. They actually did adjust. Wasn't that nice? Mad Martin out of Northern Scotland says, the only good thing about that half of football was that it went fast. Yes, it did. Just a bad game so far. God, that was horse crap, wasn't it, the first half? Mad Martin continues saying, solid backup. That would be Mr. Danny Dimes. Solid backup. If JJ is not ready to start in 25, we can at least see what he's got. And at least it should shut up the need to resign Darnold Crown rubbish. Darnold crowd rubbish. Yeah. Like shut up the Darnold. Shut up the need to resign Darnold crowd rubbish. Sorry. Yes. Yeah. Like including somebody today. I forgot who it was now. Oh crap! I forgot who it was. Like a big name former player said that today. Like, the Vikings are crazy if they don't re-sign Sam Darnold. Anyhow, continuing, Mad Martin says, this really is the worst-looking offensive performance since the Jets game. Yeah, nothing you can say is being done well. Yep. And it's just finally with yeah. and we finally led at like a minute, 18 seconds remaining. It's just ridiculous. I was saying this is becoming the most frustrating game of the season. I swear every time the Vikings have a good season, a game against the Cardinals derails things. I guess nothing is new under the sun. And if the Vikings lost to the Cardinals today, that may have been the name of the episode. Nothing new under the sun. Vince Germano says, try being a Browns fan. And then has the crying emoji. Yeah, Yep. I understand. I can imagine the insane frustration there. I don't think they played this week, did they? I don't think they did. Now I'm confused, but yeah, we'll move on. Mad Martin, yeah, but I've been calling them the brown bags, yeah, because that's how bad they've been, and I want them to win. That's why I'm so critical. That's why I'm being so mean about it. What was going on? I was saying this is the same thing, most frustrating game, blah blah blah. Mad Martin says can't argue with this. I did feel this could be a game that would be difficult to win, but how the Cardinals played last week gave me confidence. D needs to hold firm in the fourth, and hopefully the O has woken up. And thankfully they did, brother. Oh, man. Ooh, thankfully they did. Yep. I was saying, well, all right, this is turning in a better direction. And Mad Martin says it only took 2 hours. And I was saying this offense makes no sense. Yeah, but there were some stupid moments in that one. Oh, I almost lost everything. Okay, everything's all, oh, wow, it miraculously came back. I'm glad about that. Now, if we could just go back where we need to be. Dave Hickey with the miniature lightning round here after Mad Martin's lightning round. Dave Hickey out of Iowa says, and this is with Purple Daily, the Minnesota Vikings talk, what an ugly game. But as they say, a win is a win. Darnold played pretty well. Yeah, he did. And I would almost say the Cards played better defensively other than that last drive. The Vikings played bend but don't break most of the day, but they showed out when it counted. Yeah, that final drive, just like against Caleb Williams last week. Incredible. Just absolutely just, wouldn't you love to see that happen? The Vikings have a tiny lead in the Super Bowl with like a minute left or something like that, and the defense just puts the absolute kind of you-know-what on whatever team it is. Like, if it was against Patrick Mahomes, that'd be the most satisfying thing of all time. Vikings end the drought against the team that started it all for us, for the heartbreak, and the fact that this current Chiefs team is the most dislikable team ever, basically. Well, kind of. Anyhow, I just don't like Travis Kelce. I used to really not like Tyreek Hill either, but he's in Miami now. He's not as cocky now. Next, he still is, but it's not as obvious. Next, Dave Hickey says, what a game. Kind of similar to my college team, the Hawkeyes. They had to grind out a victory when it mattered. A win is a win, no matter how ugly it looks. Skull. And yes, congratulations to the Iowa Hawkeyes. Continuing. Final tweet here. Again, at Purple Mafia Show is the Twitter. Dave Hickey again says, yep, it's at Vike Lifer there. I would like to say Sam Darnold for the Tarkington Award and Gilmore's replacement, Fabian Moore, is the ponder. I was gentle on Fabian Moore because I think those calls were brutal, especially the first one. Who did I give it to? Jones. Yeah, he got in the end zone, but fumbling twice. Fumbling twice. It's just like stupid, It's bullcrap. Am I losing followers again? I don't know. Who knows? Who knows if I'm actually really losing followers or the thing fluctuates all over the place. I'm getting shadow banned, dang it. That's all it really is. And I know it sounds weird. The Facebook page, just look up Purple Mafia Show, Minnesota Vikings Show. Basically, look that up if you can. Again, sorry this show is so long, but maybe you're enjoying that. I don't know. Some people like long, some people don't. I like to be somewhere kind of in the middle if possible, but my shows always tend to be long, whether I like it or not. Oh, shoot. The Instagram is Purple Mafia Show. That's simply one quick thing, just like the Twitter or X or whatever it's called. Yep. I know I had something. Yeah, I think it was on the Danny Dimes response. Nope, it wasn't. Where was it? I think it's last week. Yes. Strike Force. That would be Mark Carlson. So this is on the Instagram. We're going to get to that right now. So, oh no, yep, it's Mark Carlson liked it. It's Tanay. That's who it was. I remember now. Tanay says, just keep winning ugly. The offense still looks very mediocre. The Darnold limitations are glaring. This was against the Titans last week? Yes. This is against 2 weeks ago. I am really, really sorry, Tanay, for this. So yes, you're more than welcome to post on the Instagram. I'll look closer and pay more attention. I apologize, Tanay. I really do. So yes, the Instagram, you are more than welcome. If you prefer Instagram or if you prefer Twitter, it's up to you. But yeah, and if you go back and forth to either one, that's totally welcome as well. So yes, the Instagram is there, and it's going to always be there, and I'm going to keep posting and on Instagram as well to get people on there. And there is multiple responses today. Cool. That's cool. So yes, Tanay, there he is. And yes, Tanay and Mark Carlson. Pretty cool. Okay, so we'll open up with Tanay out of New Zealand. Says, and again, this is the Instagram. What a comeback. Felt like the team was sleepwalking until the fourth quarter. Sam Darnold's game-winning drive was very impressive, but the amount of pressure the D got on Kyler at the end was insane. Wasn't that good? Both sides of the ball turned on the switch and had a brilliant quarter of football, almost good enough to make me forget about the first half. Almost. I'm nodding in approval. Yeah, holy cow. Yep, Strikeforce.92, and of course it's Tanay WB for Tanay Wilson Brown there out of New Zealand. Strikeforce, that would be Mark Carlson out of Iowa. He says, I had planned to make a lengthy statement about this team. Instead, I'm going to make just one statement. This team is finding a way to win. And it is more about that statement than the opposite. This team is finding a way to lose. Yeah. And it's more about the statement than the opposite. Yeah, like we were going to, yeah, because that could have been the season like, say, last year. And I do like that. I think that's really cool that you guys posted on Instagram. I think that's really cool because it's nice to have different avenues to interact with Herbal Mafia, and I am absolutely going to keep this Instagram going because I want it to. And I've also been, I believe, this show is also connected with all the other shows on one account for TikTok, paladino.live on TikTok. So there it's just mostly just kind of saying the shows out, but I might do more and more on there. But for now, I think these are going to be the places where we can interact mostly. Whereas TikTok is to kind of just say the show's there, and you're more than welcome to get going. Maybe I'll have stuff going on there later on. Maybe, I don't know if it's live or just small interactions and such. But we got to get more tentacles to the show, and I do think it's helped, actually, a little bit. It looks like there's a small increase the last week or so, so kind of nice. So it looks like things might be heading in the right direction. Hopefully. If it's just the success of the team, that's totally fine too, I guess. But it'd be nice if the show could actually grow. It would be great. Sorry for the delay here, just kind of looking. But I think it's great that you're interacting on Instagram. Encourage your friends to join as well on the Facebook and the Instagram. It'd be wonderful if you could do that. I thought I clicked on something. Here we go. So here's the Facebook page. Post-game thread. Nothing. Okay, well, but that's okay if you posted it on... Because, well, you know, the Facebook page and the Instagram are interconnected. There is that. So that's part of it. Only one comment in the in-game thread. Weird. And that was just me saying I'm sick of Aaron Jones. That's weird. Huh. Well, if you like Instagram more, that's totally fine. So I guess that's it. I'm gonna look. I gotta look a little close. Yeah. What the heck? What happened to Mike Dale? Huh. Well, I mean, I guess, you know, and Dave Hickey's mostly on Twitter. Matt Martin's on Twitter. No, Gerald must have been busy, but listening, and I appreciate you so much, Gerald. So I guess that's it. Huh. Well, with the little time I have left of this evening before another stinking work week, because this weekend flew by like they always do. Even the long ones fly by. It feels like they fly by twice as fast when they're longer. It's so depressing. Stupid. But yeah, I'm going to maybe look at Christmas lights here in a little bit and encourage anybody out there that loves this time of year. Look at those Christmas lights. It makes you feel younger. It really does. There's something special. I love having this tree right in front of me, even though it's a synthetic tree. The lights are real. The ornaments are real. And, you know, well, it's less mess, I guess, with like dead needles everywhere. And you can't have a real tree in an apartment. So it looks like a nice Christmas tree from here. Just about 3 feet. I can reach there. I touched a branch. Yeah. It's just, I love it. I mean, I could touch one of the lights even probably from here. Just, you know, I love the Christmas season. I hope you do as well. So if you could share this show with your friends, the retweets or reposts, whatever they call it, remix on, they call it remix on Instagram, share on Facebook. Just God bless you, those of you that have been doing that. Anybody, you can keep doing it. 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Please, please, please help the show by doing that. Click on the like button on the YouTube if you could. Crush that like button if you could. Join the YouTube. Join the YouTube page, the YouTube channel, paladinolive Productions. So, yep, it's in the show description. So please go there and click the link and follow. Follow. That'd be so nice. Be so nice. So anybody, it'd be great to hear from you. Don't be afraid to call in. You're more than welcome to do that. Simply call in by using your, well, it's called an audio submission. Pick up your smart device, record some audio, or you could use it on a computer or whatever, laptop or whatever, anything you want to do. It can be just, you know, you can record some type of interaction. They call it audio submission. And then submit it to paladinolive@yahoo.com, paladinolive@yahoo.com. I would then convert it into an MP3 file thanks to cloudconvert.com. So with that said, thank you again so much for listening to the show. Enjoy those Christmas lights while they're here, even though sometimes they last well into January and February, but enjoy them while they're fresh and new. That's what's most exciting. Just like Celebration Ale from that Celebration IPA, pardon me, from Sierra Nevada. Like when it's fresh around this time of year, still pretty fresh. Oh man, it's still good in January and even up to February, but it's better when it's fresh. So just like the Christmas lights right now, enjoy. Man, Buffalo player sliding in the snow after a touchdown, but there is a flag. 35-10 before the touchdown's counted. We'll see if it is. Probably celebrating prematurely, I'm guessing, but I guess you never know. Maybe 49ers are throwing helmets or something. I would be. But whatever the call is, it doesn't matter. Buffalo's going to win, and that's all that matters. Hopefully guys don't get hurt. Thank you again for listening. We'll talk to you next week. God bless you.